Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be showing you how I made this lovely wrap top. Made use of Ankara and a little bit of crepe fabric. So please subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and thank you so much to my returning subscribers. Please leave your comments in the comment section and share if you found it really helpful.
Like helicopter. Nobody girls have got an inshallah with them over. Question, but then no get the answer. Question, but then no get the answer.
So guys, I have my Ankara fabric of 1 yard and crepe fabric of 1 yard as well. I have my scissors, my tape and my chalk. These are the measurements you'll be using for this tutorial. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut out my back bodice, and you can call it just a basic bodice because it doesn't really have any particular design. So if you want to see how to draft a basic bodice block, I'll be leaving the link in the description box. So I went ahead to fold my fabric into two and started inserting my measurements for the basic bodice. I measured my half length of 18 inches. I added 1 inch because I wanted it to come down a little, and then I added extra 1 inch for sewing allowance. I added my armhole, my bust measurement, my waist measurement. I joined the lines together and I created my armhole. Created the armhole slope as well and connected the lines together. So for the neckline, I went down by 2 inches and I just connected it together as well. So after cutting out these bodies, this is what it should look like. There's no darts. I won't be using any darts for this wrap top. So the next thing is to cut exactly the same pattern. So I'm going to be placing it again on my Ankara fabric and just placing it on top and cutting it out. There will be no need for zipper allowance because I'm not fixing a zipper for this top. So now we have two pieces of this block bodice. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark out the wrong side from the right side. So after marking out the wrong side, the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my neckline. So we're creating a V neckline and I'll be making use of 3 inches depth for this neckline. So you can go in as much as 4 inches, as much as 6, 8 inches. It all depends on how deep you want the neckline to be and how much bust you want to be exposed. But 4 inches will do the work just fine. So I'm going to connect it to the neckline and then cut out my V-neck. So guys, after cutting it, I wasn't satisfied with the depth of the neckline, so I went ahead to go down by an extra 1 inch to make it 4 inches altogether, and I connected the lines. So by the side of my bodice, I'll be going up by 3 inches. After marking 3 inches on this point, I'm going to connect the line from this neckline to the point where I marked 3 inches. You can make use of your curved ruler or your free hand. So I first of all made use of my ruler to draw a straight line and then used my free hand to just trace it out. After tracing it out, go ahead and cut it out. So we're making use of these bigger parts of the fabric. So the next thing we're going to do is to create another overlap for this part. So you can decide to use this as the left or the right side, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that we're creating an overlap. So we're going to place it on the fabric, right side facing right side, and then cut it out. We can just trace it out and cut it out. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see the pattern on this fabric because of how it's the designs are covered up everywhere. So you just go ahead and place the other part you cut out on the right side of the fabric, facing the right side of the fabric, so you can cut one left pair and one right pair. So guys, we're done cutting it out and we have two pieces for the front, one for the right side and one for the left side. So it's up to you to choose or decide which of them is going to overlap the other. So we have two pieces for the front and then we have one piece for the back, which makes it three pieces altogether.
My newbies look like Halle Berry, but she don't love me.
So the next thing I'm doing is to cut my belt, the belt of the wrap top. So for the wideness I made use of 4.5 inches, and then for the length I made use of 59 inches altogether. I had to do a lot of joining on the belt because I had to manage my fabric, my leftover fabric. So after marking this 4.5, I sewed about half inch inwards, and then I was left with 2 inches of belt for both left and the right side. So I made the left side 59 and I made the right side 59 because I wanted it to go around my waist 2 times. So you can make use of as low as 40 inches, 45 inches. It all depends on how long you want your belt to be. It's time to cut our sleeve. I had complete 1 yard of this crepe fabric in black color, and I felt it would be a good color to combine with my leftover fabric. So we'll be using this for the sleeve. So this sleeve is supposed to be a balloon sleeve with elastic on the wrist. So I already have a tutorial on my channel where I drafted the complete pattern on how to make a balloon sleeve. So you can check that in the description box. So I tried to fold my fabric at the desired width I needed for my sleeves. I folded it into 4 so that I can cut both sleeves at the same time. I started off by measuring the length of the sleeve. I measured the cap length of 4.5 inches, the sleeve width plus 2 inches stitching allowance, and then the same width I used for the upper part, I used it for the wrist part. So I just went ahead, connected the upper part to the cap length, and then I cut out my length. So my sleeve length is 23 inches, but I made use of 25 inches with 1 inch stitching allowance. And we're done with the sleeve. So the next part is to join my fabric together. So with me we have the front bodice and the back bodice. This is the part we'll be joining first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch this upper part, that's the shoulder line. I'm going to stitch it by half an inch. I'm going to also stitch the other side by half an inch, and then I'm going to join the sides by the allowance that I gave while I was cutting. That's 2 inches sewing allowance. After joining the sides, I'm also going to go ahead and hem the lower part of this top. So I'm going to be folding in about half an inch all through. That's the waistline of the top. I'll be hemming it down. So let's do that and I'll show you what we have. After sewing the belt, we are left with about 2 inches extra. So before I join the belt, I made sure I made the end slant. I made one end slant so that it give it this belt look. And then after sewing, I turned it inside out and ironed it with my iron. So for the bodice, I had gone ahead to hem the lower part. As you can see, I've ironed it as well. I also sewed in my 2 inches allowance for each side. So after doing that, just make sure you give it a good press so it looks neat. So as you can see, our wrap top is already coming to shape. The next thing we're going to do is to hem the neckline, or you can as well make use of a bias tape. So I made use of a bias tape for mine. You can make use of whatever color that fits your fabric. So I'll be making use of this pink bias tape. I'll be making use of this pink bias tape so you can see it clearly and the color will be vivid enough. You can make use of whatever color matches your fabric, or you can even make use of the same fabric to just make the ends, the neckline neat. So I'll go ahead and sew it and show you what I have. So guys, this is after I've made use of the tape. I just sewed about quarter of an inch or half an inch on the neckline all the way to where the slant ended. So after doing that, you go ahead and use your iron to iron it down so it looks neat. Next thing I'm going to do is to insert my belt. So remember we measured 3 inches on the waistline. After taking out half inches for stitching and for the neckline, we are going to be left with 2 inches. So make sure your belt is the same length so that you can just place the belt in between and stitch on top to give it a neat finish. You can also just connect your belt by sewing about half inch by the side, but to make it look really neat, I'm going to be inserting this part of the top into the belt, and then make sure your belt is folded inward so that you just give it a top stitch. So I went ahead to fold mine because it wasn't giving me an easy time putting that part of the top into the belt. So after I did this, I just went ahead to fix it in, and I made it stay properly, and then went ahead to stitch on top with my machine. So I've gone ahead to stitch it down with my machine, and you can see it looks clean on both sides. So I did that for the other belt as well, and yeah, now belt is done. So the next thing I'm going to do is to open up this top. I'm going to pick a side where I want the belt to pass through, and I'm going to open it up. You can either pick the left side or the right side depending on which side you want your belt to pass. And you can also do this just before you take in your allowance by the side, but I decided to do mine after. So on this point, I'll be going in by 2 inches from the waistline and marking it right there. After marking 2 inches on that point, I'm also going to go up by another 2 inches and mark it. So I'm going to be leaving 2 inches for my belt to pass through. My belt is exactly 2 inches, so this will work just fine. So after marking it, make sure you do this on the wrong side so that you can see when you are stitching it down. After marking it like this, I'm going to double stitch on the points where the marking stopped, and then loosen up the parts where I marked, so I'll be creating like a hole. So I'll go and do that and show you what it's supposed to look like. So this is the space I was talking about. I decided to open it up before taking it to my machine, but you can do this after you've sewn on the wrong side. Then you just go ahead and loosen it up. So I'll go to my machine and double stitch on the points where I marked previously. So after holding it down with my machine, you should be able to pass your finger through, because that's where your belt is going to be going through. This is just a representation of what the belt looks like while passing through the hole I created. So we're done with the upper part. The next thing to do is to insert the sleeves. So let's get right into it. So for the lower part of the sleeve, I went ahead to hem it by about half an inch. After hemming it, I went to iron it. That's where the elastic will be passing. So I did that for both sleeves, and then I picked up the sleeves and I went ahead to notch the topmost part of the sleeve. That's like the highest part, the place that will be sitting on your shoulder. So I went ahead to pick up the midpoint and then use my scissors to notch it. So after doing that, it's time to measure our elastic. So for this elastic, I'll be making use of 15 inches. The original length of my wrist is about 9 inches, so I went 2.5 inches shorter. I didn't want the elastic to be too tight, so I measured about 15 inches, and then I divided into 2 for 2 sleeves, which means each sleeve will be having 7.5 inches.
you there from papa. Which kind money we never see before. Osello me got me feeling I'm the one. I never take my cake away.
I'm just checking it out to see the tightness and how it feels, and we're good to go. I'll be making use of this pin to pass my elastic through the hole I created on my sleeves. So I'll be doing this for each sleeve, and I'm going to stitch it down by the time I'm done. So at the end of everything, this is how the sleeve looks like. I'm going to go ahead and insert the armhole to the armhole of the top, and then I'm going to sew in my 2 inches allowance from the top part to the lower part. While sewing my inches, I'm not going to take out exactly 2 inches on top and 2 inches on the wrist. So I'm going to give like a slant shape as it gets wider as you go towards the wrist. Okay guys, so we've come to the end of this tutorial video. This is what it should look like by the time you are done making your wrap top. So you can style this top with whatever you want. I mean whatever. You can style it with your pencil skirts, your jeans, your trousers, your work trousers, anything, your flace skirts. Yeah, you can style it with anything. So thank you guys for watching. Please, if you are new here, subscribe to the channel, like, share this video if you found it helpful. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Life move fast and you do what you want. I guess I'm doing what I